The stars looked different from the bridge of the USS Intrepid. Admiral William Carter had spent 40 years in space, but he never got used to how the stars seemed to watch him back. He stood with his hands behind his back, his gray uniform, neat despite the long hours of his shift. The massive view screen showed the rings of Saturn, golden and perfect against the blackness of space. "Admiral, we have something strange on long-range sensors," said Officer Paul Green. His voice was steady, but his fingers moved quickly across his control panel. Carter walked over to Green's station. "Show me." The screen changed to show a blip of light where no light should be. It moved in a way that human ships did not move. It flickered in and out as if it wasn't fully in this reality. "It appeared 30 minutes ago, sir," Green said. "At first I thought it was a sensor error. Now, I'm sure it's not," Carter nodded slowly. Humanity had waited for this moment for over 100 years. They had sent signals into space hoping for an answer. They had built outposts on distant moons and planets. They had prepared for the day when they would not be alone. "Alert all. Ships in the Saturn defense grid," Carter ordered, "but keep weapons powered down. We don't want to seem unfriendly." Communications Officer Lisa Murray nodded. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her blue eyes were serious. "Yes, sir. Sending alerts now." She paused, her head tilted as she listened to her earpiece. "Sir, the object is broadcasting a signal. It's unlike anything in our database." The bridge grew quiet. 20 men and women looked at Carter, waiting for his order. He had trained for this, but training felt hollow now that the moment was here. "Put it through the translation system," he said. "Let's hear what they have to say." Murray pressed buttons on her console. A series of clicks and whistles filled the bridge. The sounds were not random. They had patterns and rhythms that suggested language. The ship's artificial intelligence began to work on the translation. "This will take a few minutes, sir," Murray said. Carter nodded. "That's fine. Send." A standard greeting package back to them. Earth's location, basic human biology, mathematical constants, the usual first contact protocol. The minutes passed slowly. The strange ship grew larger on the view screen as it approached Saturn. Its shape became clearer. It wasn't built like human ships. It had curves and angles that seemed to bend in ways that hurt the eyes. It was beautiful and wrong at the same time. "Translation complete," Murray announced. Her voice shook slightly. "Let's hear it," Carter said. Murray pressed a button. A flat, computer-generated voice spoke. "Greetings, primitive species. The Zoraxian hegemony claims this star system as per Galactic Convention Statute 447b. Your species will be cataloged and relocated to appropriate habitation zones. Resistance is unnecessary and inefficient." The bridge was silent. Carter felt his heart beat faster, but his face showed nothing. He had faced pirates and terrorists in the Belt Wars. He had led ships against the Mars separatists, but this was different. This was an enemy that didn't even see humans as equals. "Sir," Murray said, her voice barely above a whisper, "they've locked weapons on the Jupiter research station." Carter's stomach dropped. The Jupiter station had 5,000 people, scientists, engineers, and their families. Children. "Signal all Alliance vessels," he ordered, his voice hard. "Battle stations. I want all weapons hot. Prepare to engage." The bridge burst into action. Warning sirens blared. Red lights flashed. "Sir, they're powering up some kind of energy weapon," reported Weapons Officer Ben Kelly. "It's like nothing we've seen before." Carter made his decision. "Target their weapon systems. Fire when ready." The USS Intrepid shuddered as its railguns fired. Rounds moving at a significant fraction of light speed crossed the space between the ships in seconds. At the same time, 6 other human warships opened fire. On the screen, the alien ship's shields flared bright blue. The shields held against the first volley, but the alien ship seemed to hesitate. "They didn't expect us to fight back," Carter realized aloud. "They thought we would surrender." The alien ship fired. A beam of green energy lanced out toward the Jupiter station. But the USS Defiant moved into its path. The human ship's shields failed instantly. and the beam cut through its hull like paper. The Defiant exploded in a ball of fire and metal. 300 people, Murray whispered. Her hands were shaking, but she kept working. Another alien ship appeared, larger than the first, then another, and another. 4 enemy ships now, sir, Green reported. Carter watched as the alien fleet grew. Part of him wanted to run to save his ship and crew, but he knew what would happen if humans showed weakness now. All ships, coordinated attack pattern Delta, he ordered. Focus fire on the lead ship. Show them humans don't surrender. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Human ships, though technologically outmatched, fought with a ferocity that surprised the alien invaders. They used tactics the Zoraxians had never seen, ships deliberately taking damage to give others a clear shot, captains sacrificing themselves to protect civilian outposts. 3 hours later, the bridge of the Intrepid was filled with smoke. Half the stations were dark. 23 crew members were dead, but in front of them the lead alien ship drifted, its strange hull torn open to space. We've captured some of their data, Murray reported, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. Their communication suggests they're surprised. They've conquered other species before and none fought back like this. Carter nodded grimly. His uniform was torn, and burns covered his left arm. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we've made first contact. He paused, looking at the destruction on his view screen. And tell them it's war. The first human-alien war began not with handshakes or speeches, but with the simple fact that aliens assumed humans would surrender without a fight. The Zoraxians had conquered 17 species across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. None had posed a challenge. Humans would be different. By the time the first day of battle ended, the Zoraxians had learned something that would soon become the most important rule in their military handbook. Never face human warships. They take no prisoners. Fleet Commander Zakatral stood on the command deck of the Zoraxian flagship, the Inevitable Conquest. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he watched the tactical display. The human ships were small dots of light, moving in patterns that made no sense to him. The humans had destroyed one of his cruisers and damaged 2 others. This was not how first contact scenarios usually played out. They fight without honor, said Sub-Commander Vex, his second in command. Vex's skin was pale blue, marked with the rank tattoos of 30 successful conquests. They do not follow standard battle protocols. Zekatral's upper arms crossed while his lower arms adjusted the holographic display. They were not in our database. We assumed they were presentient. A mistake, Vex admitted. The High Council will not be pleased, Zekatral hissed softly. The High Council was millions of light years away, safe in the center of the Zoraxian Empire. They did not face unknown species with strange tactics. They did not watch their ships break apart under impossible attacks. Sensor report, he demanded. A young officer moved forward. The human weapons appear primitive. They use metal projectiles and nuclear warheads, but they accelerate these weapons to speeds we did not think possible without gravity manipulation technology. And their ships? Zekatral asked. Primitive as well. No gravity control, no faster-than-light weapons, no neural interfaces. The officer paused. But they have many redundant systems. If one part fails, another takes over. And their ships can take damage that would destroy our vessels. Skatral thought about this. The Zoraxian philosophy was elegance and efficiency. Every system served one purpose perfectly. Redundancy was seen as a flaw, a sign of poor engineering. But perhaps the humans knew something the Zoraxians had forgotten. They should have surrendered, Vex said. Every other species surrenders when they see our technology. These humans do not know they are supposed to lose, Zekatral replied. They have not heard of the Zoraxian hegemony. They do not know our history of conquest. On the display, a human ship suddenly changed course. It was damaged, trailing atmosphere and debris, but it turned directly toward the closest Zoraxian cruiser. They're going to impact, the sensor officer shouted. Katral watched as the human ship slammed into the cruiser. Both vessels disappeared. In a ball of fire. 5,000 Zoraxian warriors gone in an instant. Who does this? Vex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Who sacrifices themselves this way? A species that values victory over survival, Zekatral replied. For the first time in his 300-year career, he felt fear. The battle continued for 6 more hours. The humans lost 12 ships. The Zoraxians lost 5 cruisers and a supply vessel. It was the worst defeat in Zoraxian history. Zekatral ordered a retreat. His ships gathered at the edge of the system, far from the human defenses. He needed to report to the High Council, but he did not know what to say. How could he explain that a primitive species had driven back the mighty Zoraxian fleet? We need reinforcements, Vex suggested. The new Dreadnought-class vessels from the home system. It will take 6 months for them to reach us, Zekatral replied. We must hold this position until then. The days that followed were tense. The humans did not pursue the Zoraxian fleet, but they fortified their outposts. They built new weapons platforms around their planets. They prepared for the next attack. Zekatral studied them. He watched as human ships moved between their worlds. He intercepted their communications and had them translated. Slowly, he began to understand what made humans different. They expect things to go wrong, he told his officers one day. Their entire civilization is built on the idea that failure is inevitable, so they must prepare for it. That is a strange philosophy, Vex said, but an effective one, Zekatral replied. They have backup systems for their backup systems. They train for disasters that have never happened. They imagine worst-case scenarios and then build solutions for them. The High Council will not accept defeat, another officer said. We are ordered to take this system. Zekatral nodded. And we will, but not through direct confrontation. We need to learn from these humans before we can defeat them. He ordered scout ships to observe human outposts from a distance. He captured human transmissions and studied their language and culture. He learned that humans had a long history of war among themselves. They had perfected the art of killing each other long before they reached space. 3 months after the first battle, a human ship approached the Zoraxian fleet. It was small, unarmed, broadcasting a message of peace. They want to talk, Vex said, surprised. Bring their ship into Docking Bay 3, Zekatral ordered. Full security protocols. The human ship carried a single person, a female named Susan Clark. She wore a simple blue uniform with no weapons. She stood before Zekatral without showing fear, though she was surrounded by armed guards. My government has authorized me to discuss terms, she said when the translation system was working. Terms of your surrender? Zekatral asked. The human made a strange sound. Laughter, the translation system said. No, terms for peace, or terms for your departure from our system. Your choice. Zekatral's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. You have won.
One battle. Do not think you have won the war. We don't want a war, Susan Clark replied.
We never did. You attacked us without provocation. We defended ourselves. This system belongs to the Zoraxian hegemony now, Zekatral said. That is the way of the galaxy. The strong claim, the weak accept. The human smiled, showing her teeth. The translation system noted this could be a sign of amusement or aggression. Then I guess we'll have to show you how strong humans really are. She was returned to her ship and allowed to leave. Zekatral watched her go, wondering if he had made another mistake. The humans seemed so confident, despite their primitive technology, too. Days later, 3 Zoraxian ships disappeared without warning. There was no battle, no distress call. They simply vanished from sensors. What happened? Zekatral demanded. The sensor officer looked confused. Unknown, Commander. There is no sign of weapons fire. No debris. Nothing. A week later, it happened again. 2 more ships gone without a trace. Zekatral received a message from the human called Susan Clark. This is your final warning. Leave our system or be destroyed. For the first time in Zoraxian history, a fleet commander considered retreat not as a tactical move, but as a final solution. Zekatral looked at the stars and wondered, if the hegemony had finally met its match. Alan Howard walked down the long corridor of Space Station Liberty, his footsteps echoing against the metal floor. He was not a soldier. His hands were soft, his body thin, and his eyes kind behind his glasses. He was a diplomat, a man who used words instead of weapons. Today, his words needed to be perfect. Two Marines walked beside him. They were large men with hard faces who carried pulse rifles. They did not speak as they led Alan to the special room at the end of the corridor. "Remember, sir," one Marine finally said as they reached the door. "Don't get too close to the glass, don't make sudden movements, and don't believe anything it tells you." Alan nodded. He had been briefed on proper protocol. This was the first time any human would speak at length with a captured Zoraxian. The fate of Earth might depend on what he learned. The door slid open with a soft hiss. The room beyond was large and circular. In the center was a clear chamber filled with a special mix of gases that the alien needed to breathe. Inside the chamber sat the Zoraxian commander. It was smaller than Alan had expected, about the size of a 10-year-old child. Its skin was pale blue with dark spots that moved slowly across its surface. It had 4 arms, each ending in 3 long fingers. Its head was round with 4 eyes placed in a ring around a small mouth. It wore what looked like a uniform made of a shiny material that changed colors as it moved. Alan sat in the chair facing the chamber. A small device on the table between them would translate their words. "I am Alan Howard, representing the United Earth Government," he said clearly. The Zoraxian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "I am Sub-Commander Vex of the Inevitable Conquest, 3rd Fleet of the Zoraxian Hegemony." The translation device turned the alien's clicks and whistles into flat mechanical English. Alan wondered what his own voice sounded like to the alien. "I want to understand why you attacked our outposts," Alan said. "We sent peaceful messages, we offered friendship." The alien made a gesture with its upper arms that the briefing materials said showed dismissal. "Your species was not in our database. Unknown species are classified as presentient until proven otherwise." Alan frowned. "You attacked without confirming if we were intelligent beings?" "It is standard procedure," Vex replied. "Most species accept domination when faced with superior technology." Alan wrote something in his notebook. The pen felt good in his hand. Even in the age of digital devices, he preferred paper and ink. "But you didn't have superior technology," he pointed out. The alien's skin rippled, a gesture that could mean anything. "Your weapons were hidden. Your ships appeared primitive." "That wasn't intentional deception," Alan explained. "We simply build practical ships with redundant systems. We expect things to go wrong in space." The alien was silent for a moment. All 4 eyes focused on Alan with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Your species prepares for failure even in your designs," Vex finally said. "This is unusual." "We call it Murphy's Law," Alan explained. "If something can go wrong, it will, so we prepare accordingly." "Perhaps this is why you fight like cornered predators," Vex said. "You always expect the worst." Alan thought about this. It was true that humans had a unique outlook compared to the other species the Zoraxians had encountered. Humans had evolved on a dangerous world where death could come from starvation, disease, predators, or even the weather. They had learned to anticipate problems before they happened. "Let me ask you something," Alan said. "How many other species fought back when you claimed their worlds?" Vex's skin changed color slightly, darkening around the edges. "None," it admitted. "Most understand their place in the galaxy. The strong rule, the weak serve." "And what happens to these weak species?" Alan asked. "They are relocated to habitat worlds. They serve the hegemony. They fill their proper place in the Grand Order." Vex's voice, even through the translator, had a tone of absolute certainty. Alan nodded slowly. "And now your leaders plan to send more ships to Earth?" "Of course, the High Council has already dispatched the Dreadnought fleet. They will arrive in 3 of your months. They are unlike anything your species has faced. Each Dreadnought carries enough firepower to turn a planet's surface to glass." Vex leaned closer to the glass, its 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Your species fought well, but the hegemony spans 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. We have conquered 17 species. We have technology you cannot imagine. Alan should have felt afraid. Instead, he felt a strange calm. He had what he came, for a confirmation of the dreadnought fleet and its arrival time. The rest was just details. There's something you should know about humans, Alan said softly. We have a long history of being underestimated. He stood up to leave, but Vex made a sound that caused the translator to beep for attention. I have a question for you, human, Vex said. Your ships, they disappeared without leaving any trace. How is this possible? It is beyond your technology level. Alan smiled. I'm not a military person. I don't have that information. This was true. Alan was a diplomat, not a soldier. He hadn't been briefed on whatever weapon or strategy had made the Zoraxian ships vanish. You're lying, Vex said. I have studied your species. Your facial expressions show deception. Not deception, Alan replied. Just compartmentalization. In your hegemony, does everyone know everything? Vex's skin darkened again. No. Information is granted based on need and rank. It's the same with us, Alan said. Now I have another question. In your experience, do species ever escape from the hegemony once they've been conquered? Vex seemed startled by the question. No. It is impossible. The hegemony is eternal. Alan nodded. Thank you for your honesty. As he left the room, Alan's mind was racing. He needed to report everything he had learned. The dreadnought fleet was coming. Humanity had 3 months to prepare. Outside the station, Earth glowed blue and green against the blackness of space. Alan looked at his home planet and wondered if it would still be free 3 months from now. The thought made his chest tight with fear, but also with determination. In the 6 months since first contact, humanity had learned and adapted faster than any species the Zoraxians had ever encountered. Human scientists had already reverse-engineered, captured alien technology. Human factories worked day and night building new weapons and ships. Human strategists studied every detail of Zoraxian battle tactics. As his shuttle headed back to Earth, Alan thought about what would happen when the dreadnought fleet arrived. The Zoraxians expected to find a frightened species ready to surrender. Instead, they would find a united planet prepared for the fight of their lives. The word had spread throughout human space. The aliens were coming back, and this time they were bringing their best ships and weapons. But instead of causing panic, the news had brought humanity together. Old enemies became allies. Resources were shared. Everyone worked toward a single goal: survival. Alan looked at the stars outside his shuttle window. Somewhere out there, the dreadnought fleet was coming. They thought they knew what they would find when they reached Earth. They were wrong. Captain Samantha Wilson stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, her eyes fixed on the stars outside the viewscreen. Her ship was small compared to most in the human fleet, but it was fast and carried weapons that had not existed 6 months ago. She and her crew of 50 had been chosen for a mission that could change the course of the war. All systems ready, Captain, said First Officer Kyle Bennett from his station. His dark skin gleamed under the blue lights of the bridge. The new stealth system is working perfectly. The Zoraxians cannot detect us. Wilson nodded. The stealth system was based on captured alien technology. Human scientists had taken it apart, understood it, and made it better in just a few months. This was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to learn and adapt quickly. What about the other ships? She asked. The Valiant, Courage, Liberty, Phoenix, Horizon, and Enterprise all report ready, Bennett replied. All ships are maintaining stealth protocols. 7 ships, 7 crews, less than 500 humans against the might of an alien empire that spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. The odds were not good, but Wilson had never believed in odds. Then let's begin, she said. Signal all ships to prepare for the jump. The plan was risky. No human had ever attempted faster-than-light combat maneuvers like the ones they were about to try. But the Zoraxians had to be shown that attacking Earth had consequences. Initiating faster-than-light drive in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the view screen blurred and stretched. Wilson felt the familiar pull in her stomach as the ship entered FTL space. For 3 seconds that felt like 3 years. Reality itself seemed to bend around them. Then, with a flash of light, they were somewhere else. They had jumped deep into Zoraxian territory. What they found shocked even the battle-hardened Wilson. Winnegar Zoraxian shipyard was massive, easily 10 times larger than anything humans had built. It floated in space like a metal city, with ships of all sizes docked along its edges. At its center were the dreadnoughts, 5 massive vessels, each one bigger than the largest human space station. "My God," Bennett whispered. "They're huge." Wilson felt a moment of doubt. The dreadnoughts were more impressive than intelligence had suggested. For a moment, she considered aborting the mission. Then she noticed something odd about the defensive pattern around the shipyard. The weapon platforms were positioned to be seen, not to provide actual coverage. There were gaps in the defense grid that made no sense, unless you assumed no one would ever attack this place. They've never been attacked here before, she realized aloud. They've designed these defenses to intimidate, not to actually repel an assault. Bennett studied the tactical display. "You're right. They have minimal coverage on the maintenance vectors. It's all show." Wilson smiled grimly. "Signal the fleet we attack as planned. Let's show them what humans do to those who threaten our people." The human ships broke formation, each heading for a pre-assigned target. The Defiant, under Wilson's command, aimed for the nearest dreadnought. "Weapons ready," reported the tactical officer, a young woman named Kate Morris. Her fingers hovered over the controls. "New fusion missiles armed and locked." "Fire," Wilson ordered. The missiles shot from the Defiant's launch tubes. They moved faster than any human weapon had moved before, crossing the space to the dreadnought in seconds. They hit the alien ship's shields, which flared bright blue. "No effect," Morris reported. "Their shields are too strong." Wilson had expected this. The Zoraxians had been building ships for thousands of years. Their technology was advanced beyond human understanding in many ways, but humans had something the Zoraxians didn't: creative thinking born from thousands of years of war against each other. "Deploy the drones," Wilson ordered. From the Defiant's cargo bay, 100 small drones flew into space. Each was about the size of a human fist, carrying a tiny but powerful bomb. They moved toward the dreadnought, slipping through the shield frequency that human scientists had discovered by studying captured Zoraxian ships. On the tactical display, Wilson watched as the other human ships deployed their own drones. Thousands of the small devices swarmed toward the alien vessels like angry bees. The Zoraxian shipyard finally noticed them. Alarms blared across space as weapon platforms turned and fired. But it was too late. The drones reached their targets, attaching to the hulls of the dreadnoughts and the shipyard itself. "Detonation in 3, 2, 1. Morris counted down. The explosions were small individually, but there were thousands of them. They created a chain reaction that tore through the shipyard's power systems. Fires broke out across the massive structure. The incomplete dreadnoughts, their systems not yet fully operational, began to break apart. "It's working," Bennett said, his voice full of disbelief. "They're actually breaking apart." But the battle was far from over. Zoraxian fighters poured from launch bays, and the defensive platforms were now fully active. Energy beams sliced through space toward the human ships. "Evasive maneuvers," Wilson ordered. "All ships commence Phase 2. The USS Liberty was hit by 3 energy beams at once. The human ship exploded in a ball of fire, taking its crew of 65 with it. Wilson felt the loss like a physical pain, but she forced herself to focus on the mission. The remaining human ships launched their secondary weapons, EMP bombs designed to disable rather than destroy. They hit the operational Zoraxian vessels, shutting down their systems and leaving them drifting in space. "Target the central control hub," Wilson ordered, "all remaining missiles." The Defiant fired everything it had left. The other human ships did the same. The central hub of the shipyard, a sphere of metal and glass at the heart of the structure, was hit by 20 missiles at once. It shattered, sending debris in all directions. Without the central hub, the shipyard's defenses went offline. The remaining Zoraxian ships, confused and without coordination, began to fire randomly, sometimes hitting their own vessels. "They're in chaos," Bennett reported. The plan worked. Wilson nodded, but there was no time to celebrate. "Prepare for..." "FTL, jump back to the rendezvous point. We've done what we came to do." The human ships gathered, forming a protective formation around those that were damaged. They had lost 2 vessels, the Liberty and the Valiant. 120 humans dead, but they had destroyed 5 dreadnoughts and crippled the Zoraxians' main shipyard. It would take the aliens years to recover. As the Defiant prepared to jump back to friendly space, Wilson looked at the destruction they had caused. She felt no joy, only a grim satisfaction. The Zoraxians had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had found a species that fought back, that struck at the heart of their empire. Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars blurred again as the human ships fled into FTL space. Behind them, they left a message, one that would spread throughout the Zoraxian hegemony and beyond. The message was simple. Humanity would not be conquered. Not today. Not ever. Grand Admiral Patricia Collins stood in the small room, waiting. Her uniform was crisp and dark blue with gold trim that marked her as the highest-ranking officer in the human fleet. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes showed the weariness of someone who had not slept well in months. The door opened, and a young aide entered. "They're ready for you, Admiral." Collins nodded and followed the aide down a long hallway. The walls were made of a strange, shifting material that seemed to flow like water. This was not a human building. This was the Hall of the Galactic Council, located on a neutral planet at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. It had taken 6 more months of fighting after the destruction of the Zoraxian shipyard before the aliens agreed to peace talks. 6 months of battles won and lost, of ships destroyed, of lives ended. But humanity had proven stronger than anyone expected. They had not only defended their home system, but had taken the fight to the enemy. The hallway opened into a massive circular chamber. In the center was a raised platform where Collins would stand. Around it, in rising tiers, were the representatives of over 300 spacefaring species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Collins could barely understand what she was seeing. There were beings made of gas, of crystal, of energy. There were species with multiple heads, with no heads, with dozens of limbs or none at all. This was the Galactic Council, the ruling body that governed relations between intelligent species. The Zoraxians had hidden its existence from humanity, breaking one of the Council's most important rules. Collins walked to the platform. She felt the eyes of every alien in the room on her. She was the first human to address this assembly, and what she said would shape humanity's place among the stars for generations to come. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice steady. "Humanity did not seek this conflict. We were attacked without provocation, our peaceful outposts destroyed, and our people threatened with relocation." Murmurs rippled through the alien delegates. Some made sounds of agreement, others of disbelief. "The Zoraxian hegemony violated your own laws when they attacked us without first making peaceful contact. They hid the existence of the Galactic Council from us. They treated us as if we were animals to be catalogued and controlled." A large being with 6 eyes and skin like polished metal stood. The translator in Collins's ear identified it as the representative of the Zoraxian hegemony. "Humans are primitive and dangerous," the Zoraxian said. "They develop weapons before they develop wisdom. They fight among themselves over territory and resources. They are not ready for their place in the galactic community." Collins smiled slightly. "We have fought among ourselves, yes. But we have also created art, music, literature. We have cured diseases, fed the hungry, explored the unknown. We have the capacity for both great destruction and great creation." She activated a small device in her hand. A holographic display appeared, showing images of Earth, its oceans, forests, cities, and people. Then the display changed to show the devastation of the war. Human outposts in ruins, ships torn apart, the dead floating in space. We have now signed armistice agreements with the Zoraxian hegemony, Collins continued. But I am here to ensure that no similar misunderstandings occur with other species. The holographic display changed again, showing the battle at the Zoraxian shipyard. Many delegates shifted uncomfortably in their environmental chambers. Humanity desires peace and fair trade. We wish to learn from galactic civilization and contribute our own knowledge. But let me be absolutely clear. We will defend ourselves without hesitation or mercy against any aggression. The representative of the ancient Meldari conclave, a being that looked like a floating crystal, raised an appendage. Your species has existed for mere moments in cosmic time, yet you dictate terms to the galaxy? Collins kept her voice calm. Not terms, just a simple understanding. Humans have a saying, treat others as you wish to be treated. We extend friendship to those who offer friendship, but those who bring war to our doorstep will find we are more formidable than our appearance suggests. The chamber fell silent. Then, one by one, representatives began to signal agreement. The Zoraxian delegate sat down, defeated. The leader of the council, a tall being with skin that shifted through all the colors of the rainbow, spoke. The council acknowledges humanity's place among the galactic community. The actions of the Zoraxian hegemony were in violation of our laws, and they will face consequences. Collins bowed her head in respect. Humanity thanks the council for its wisdom. As she left the chamber, Collins felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The war was truly over. Humanity was safe, at least for now. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Collins spent the time reading reports, planning for the future, and looking out at the stars that were now open to human exploration. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but also dangers. Humanity would need to be careful as they took their first steps into this larger community. When her ship reached Earth orbit, Collins stood at the view screen and looked down at her home planet. It seemed small and fragile from space, a blue and green jewel in the blackness. But she knew better than most how strong humanity really was. Her aide approached. Admiral, we've received a message from the Council. They've added humanity to the protected species list. No one can attack us without facing the combined might of all Council races. Collins nodded. Good. That gives us time to learn and grow. There's something else, the aide added. The Zoraxians have added a new rule to their military handbook. It's being shared among all their ships and outposts. What does it say? Collins asked. The aide handed her a data pad. On it was a simple message. Galactic Encounter Protocol Edition. 5591C. When encountering human vessels, extreme caution is advised. Despite appearances, their ships are heavily armed and their tactics unpredictable. Rule number 1. Never engage human warships in direct combat. They take no prisoners when their people are threatened. Collins smiled. It wasn't strictly true that humans took no prisoners. They had captured many Zoraxians during the war, treated them well, and would soon return them as part of the peace agreement. But she understood the sentiment behind the rule. Humanity had earned a reputation, and that reputation would help keep them safe in a dangerous galaxy. Later that day, she stood before the United Earth government and gave her report. She told them about the Council, about the hundreds of alien species, about the wonders and dangers that waited among the stars. She spoke of trade opportunities, of technological exchange, of diplomatic missions. She ended her report with the words that would guide humanity's steps into the galactic community. We go forward not as conquerors but as explorers, not seeking dominance but partnership. We have won our place among the stars. Now we must show ourselves worthy of it. In the decades that followed, humanity spread throughout the stars, not as conquerors, but as respected equals. They were feared by some, admired by others. But one thing became universally acknowledged. The species from the blue planet at the edge of the galaxy had earned their place among the stars, and they had earned it the hard way.